We do have a quorum, and it is
Yep,
5 o'clock. So whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair, or temporary chair,
temporary chair, yes.
yeah, acting chair.
All right, yeah, let's go ahead and start. Um,
I just noticed that. Well, that's odd.
hmm,
Oh, no, it's fine. Everything's good. Yep, we're good. I was looking for the election of chairperson, and I originally had it after call to order, but I moved it. So, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, all right. So let's start with the minutes. Do we have
Why don't I indicate
any
the role first?
corrections?
I'll indicate the
Oh,
role
yeah.
just for the record. So I'm seeing present Tad Dockery. Um, and this is alphabetical order. We have Noah, is it Duckett or Duckett? How do you say your name, Noah?
Oh, it's Noah Duckett.
Duckett. Why don't you introduce yourself too while we're at it?
Okay. Hi, I'm Noah. I'm going to be a senior next year at Middleton High School. And yeah, I'm pretty excited to get senior year started.
And we're happy to have you here. He's our new youth representative replacing Zoe Van Nest. Lisa Hanairo is returning to the commission from the Plan Commission as the Plan Commission representative. She's present. Alder Todd Kalish is present. He represents the council. Kirsten Kleckner is present. Stephen Small. Why don't you, if you could introduce yourself too, please?
Sure. I'm also a member. I guess I'm also the liaison from the Commission on Aging. Um, I'm a retired community developmental psychology professor. And I think I was drafted in part. I'm probably the biggest, probably the biker and walker from the Commission on Aging. I don't know, maybe I'm towards the younger end, but I'm retired though, so I'm senior.
Well, welcome. Dale Rhodes represents Middleton Cross Plains School District. He's present. And then Tom Yost is present, a Middleton resident. I do not see Carrie Schiffner, Public Works Committee representative this evening. And we have one vacancy. Jim Schutz has his term expired and there's not been a replacement appointed at this point. So we're all set to go, Tad.
All right. So do we have any corrections to the minutes? Any comments?
This is Lisa. I don't have any corrections to the minutes, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, now that all of our meetings are recorded to save time for the staff, what do we think about maybe having the minutes conform to what the Common Council and the Finance and Personnel Committee and some others do, which is really just recording the actions. I feel like if I miss a meeting, I'm going to go back and watch the video so that I can hear what people had to say, even if I listen double speed. It's a different experience to hear people talking. And so again, just thinking of the effort it takes staff to put together these detailed meeting minutes, I wonder if the other members of the committee would mind just going with the like the Roberts Rules minimum requirement for the minutes.
Do we
I
need
mean,
to
I
raise
have
our?
I I have no objections to that. Would that go here while we're talking about the minutes? I haven't read that part of Robert's rules because it's
Well, it doesn't really matter where it goes. It's just a question for the committee to consider, since we are talking about minutes right now.
I guess stated a different way, just to help out. If these minutes adopted the Roberts Rules format that Alder Hanairo was mentioning, this would simply indicate the motion under the 5-year street improvement plan would simply indicate the motion, as I understand what Alder Hanairo is suggesting as an option. Some of the items we have are just discussion, so I guess we would simply say for this one, the committee discussed, I could, something very brief, but without capturing what individuals said per se. I think that's what you're getting at, Alder Haniro.
That's exactly what I'm getting at. And I used to write minutes all the time in my career. And I can tell you it is labor intensive. And I just am keenly aware that all our staff are really overloaded with work. And if there's any way that, again, I wouldn't suggest this if our meetings weren't recorded. And Mark does a really great job always hitting record and making sure these meetings get posted. So I just feel like it's a way to streamline the record keeping and not diminish our ability to, as members, to get up to speed on what we might have missed or go back and take our own notes or take them live if we're there. So it's just a suggestion.
Can I talk?
Hang on, Kirsten had her hand up.
I support Lisa's suggestion, especially because I know Mark is extremely overworked, and if this could free up a little bit of time, I support that.
Tom?
Did you say Tom?
I did say Tom.
Okay. So I think it's a good idea, but I think it needs to be, on the agenda, which I guess it was already said. But I think the thing that's nice about just publishing the motion and the results, so what was decided on, keeping it simple like that also allows, that it's less debatable, and you could make the minutes. I think what Robert's rules was about was not, if there's editorial, then you're trying to use the minutes to influence the public or the board or the committee members. So I think Robert's rules is a good idea.
Okay, so on that note, just to clarify with Mark, is that the sort of thing that we would need to have on the agenda in order to verify it?
So what's before you tonight is the minutes specifically of the
Right,
previous meeting. So you need to decide whether the minutes are acceptable as written.
right. Are the
If
minutes,
right, that's what's before you. So I guess there's a discussion as to whether these minutes are acceptable or whether they should be briefer in the future, could be briefer. So there's probably a little bit of leeway there, but if you're going to have a big discussion about how you want procedures done for the committee, then I would recommend that be a separate agenda item.
all right. And since that's not posted, I think going over our procedures would be an excellent thing to do in August. But for right now, do we have any corrections to the minutes? Any issues? Okay, so hearing none, the minutes are approved as read. Agenda item 1, we need to elect a chair and a vice chair. So do we have any nominations for chair? We'll start there.
Kirsten has her hand up.
Oh, sorry, Kirsten.
Okay, I would like to nominate Ted.
Dale?
I'll second.
All right. I've been nominated. I'll do it. Do we have other? Do we have other? Sorry, I meant I'm willing. Do we have any other nominations? All right. Hearing no other nominations, I'm Tad Dockery has been selected by acclamation. We need a vice chair for when I can't be here or when Zoom cuts out on me and I panically start trying to get people's attention. Kirsten.
I'd like to nominate Lisa. I know she has a lot on her plate, but if she's willing.
I appreciate that, Kirsten, I really do, but I think I should decline.
Okay,
I just got picked to chair the Workforce Housing Committee. So that's, yeah, but thank you.
Other nominations?
I will nominate my council colleague Alder Kalish if he is willing.
Sure. Yeah, I'd accept that nomination.
Kirsten has her hand up again.
Kirsten.
I second.
Okay. Do we have any other nominations? Hearing none, Tom Kalish has been elected vice chair by acclamation. All right, that's out of the way. Item number 2, active transportation plan.
We have an intern who took the first shot at drafting this. Her name is Nikki Cuevas. She's with us for the summer. She was unable to be present today because she's traveling, but I did invite her and I wanted her to feel welcome here, and I know she would be. So we are wanting to obviously have a strong public involvement, engagement component as we work on developing a replacement to our bicycle and pedestrian plan, which we are calling the active transportation plan. There's a brief summary here at the top, and then there's a series of questions. I know that a couple of committee members, specifically Kirsten and Tad, have offered to do some legwork with preparation of what I'm going to call the ATP going forward. And so I did not run this by you two yet, in part because we only finished this earlier this week. So I didn't have a chance to, but I thought it would be good to get the whole committee anyway to get your input. So that's my background, and I just want to turn this over to you for your guidance.
Lisa.
Thanks. So in addition to writing minutes in my career, I also wrote surveys like this. And I think the very first thing we should do as a committee is decide how we're going to use the information that we gather in this survey. Because if we don't have a clear idea of what the answers to each question will turn into in terms of our report, then we should rethink whether or not to ask that particular question. So that's one thing. Second, if you count the demographic information and the open-ended questions at the end, this is 22 questions. And I think that needs to be pared down to just 10. People in Middleton are, they're busy too. We send out quite a lot of surveys, which is good because we are, heavy into public involvement. But I want to make sure that whatever our ask is, we know what we're going to do with the data and we don't overburden people. So that's kind of general comments. I have some specific comments that I can just forward to you, Mark, and maybe you can share with Tad and Kirsten, because I really don't want to take up time going through it. But just some suggestions for consistency, for what questions maybe we don't need to ask. I know there's a question that talks about, which one is it? Well, like question 7 talks about crime and collaboration. And that's one of those questions that I'm like, why are we asking this? What are we going to do with the answers to this question? How is that going to help us craft this plan? So that was one I wondered about. And then question number 3 has, a bunch of different options to rate, and then rate them very poor to very good. And it seems to me that several of them should be grouped together. So ease of access to your job and other important destinations by car, by bicycle, by walking. Those three should go together instead of being split up and combined. Oh, and then public transit. So those four should be one question asking, rate based on your experience, how would you rate the ease of access to work and school and other destinations by, and then each of those four things. Same thing for how would you rate facilities for bikes, for instance, paths, bike lanes, signals, etc. How would you rate facilities for walking? Things, just more thought put into how to group those so that people can focus on, okay, I'm answering, how do I like the facilities for all these modes? And now I'm answering ease of access to where I need to go for all these modes versus now we're asking about car, now bike facilities, now another bike question, now pedestrian, now another walking, back to biking and walking. It's just, again, thinking of how to make this easy for people to answer and easy for us to extract the data and do something useful with it. And Mark, I'll send you some other, smaller, specific comments here and there. Thank you.
Stephen.
Hi, yeah, I would concur with Lisa. I've also done lots of surveys over the years. And I always say, start at the end. So think about what are you going to do with this? And since I'm new to the committee, I know less about what the plan is, but it seems like it could probably be focused more. And sounds like Lisa, I put my ink on it as well. And I guess rather than going over now, I can send my comments to whoever. Does it go to you, Mark, or does it go to?
Yeah. I mean, if they are policy related, substance related, like, I think that is definitely something you'd want to discuss here as a committee. If they are editorial, typos and word choice and things like that, minor in nature, that's certainly something to send to me on an individual basis. That's fine. But if it gets into, I think Alder Hanairo's comments are very helpful. And if there's going to be an overhaul of the survey in terms of length and how things are grouped, I think that's good for the body to discuss. So I think keeping individual words and questions, use your judgment, but if it's something you don't think the committee needs to fully discuss, then just send that to me individually.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what I put, again, since I'm a little fuzzier on, what's going to be done with it, I focused a bit more on structural stuff and, how it might be worded and questions that I really didn't understand and things that could be clarified. I'm also, again, I don't know if this is something you do here. I'm also willing to, work with Nikki or whoever else just to help shape it a little bit more. I'm going to assume it's going to come back through this committee again, or no?
Well, it depends on how many changes you are identifying. So if the body would like to see it again, we can certainly bring it back to you. If you felt we were on the right track and gave me some direction tonight that we can run with, then, I wasn't planning to come back with it necessarily, but if you would like to see it back, certainly we can do that.
Well, I guess, again, here's where I agree with Lisa in that, I'm thinking, how can we shorten it? Are there ways? There seems to be just a lot of questions that perhaps, again, I'm not as sure about, what you're going to do with all this. So that's where I'm a little bit of at a disadvantage, but there do things like questions that might not be as relevant as others, and some things that might get a few questions that might get right to the point of what you're trying to get at. So
Yep.
I'm a little fuzzier but I can send you what I have, which are primarily at this point editorial or suggestions for rewording things in a way that might better clarify and get at what I think you're trying to get at.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And just as background, I think when Nikki drafted when she put together the initial draft, I had asked her to review other community active transportation plans. Several we've discussed several over the last few months. Fort Collins, Fayetteville, Arkansas, Sun Prairie has one. So I mean, she looked at various other efforts, and they all have different formats and such, but they have public involvement. So she, I think, got a lot of her ideas from this and from doing some internet research.
So just to follow up on that, Steven's fuzzy on it. I'm fuzzy on what we're doing
Okay.
with the survey specifically. What is the intent of the survey?
To identify, I guess the way I looked at it is to, we want to identify and ask the community to provide us with what they see as problem areas, issue areas, opportunities for improvement. I mean, ultimately, that's what we want the ATP to produce, to have a plan, an actionable plan for how we move forward with making Middleton more pedestrian and bicycle friendly, more accessible, more transit friendly, all those things. So that's the overall objective. I have talked with my colleague Daphne about having a mapping interface so that people can point to a location and identify opportunity, where there's a problem area. Many people are not very map oriented or spatially oriented.
Very true.
And so a map doesn't work for everybody. But so I guess we didn't also want to have the survey be so, I mean, we wanted to accommodate in people in their ability to respond in different ways according to what they see as, what works for them in terms of their needs and how they communicate. So we wanted to have some open-endedness to it, but also help focus and guide their thoughts. So sorry if that was a little bit rambling, but the ultimate purpose is to have an actionable document that identifies needs, and then obviously we'll stress test that. We'll take that to once the plan is drafted, we'll have formal opportunities, open houses, I would imagine, and public input that way too, in a hearing.
Lisa.
Thanks. I would like to see this again after it's revised, and I just wanted to be clear, kudos to Nikki for researching this and putting this together. I don't want my comments to sound at all critical of the work that she is doing. I'll share with you one of my favorite quotes, if you can see it. I don't know if it's backwards or not, but it says, "No passion in the world is equal to the passion to alter someone else's draft," and it's by H.G. Wells. And that describes me. Yeah. So I think what Stephen and I are both doing is making suggestions for how to tweak this. And, I was an intern too. This is a great way to learn how to, just add to your skill set. And I volunteer and actually really want to be able to test I assume this will go out in like SurveyMonkey or something like that. I want to be able to test it because I want to make sure it's functioning when it goes out.
If I could ask if the consensus is to see it again, which is what I'm hearing, would there be willingness to meet again in a couple of weeks so that we don't wait a full month? And the reason I suggest that is because Nikki's here only for the summer, and it would be nice to broaden her experience and help with other aspects of this survey, of administration of the survey. Would there be openness to meeting again in, let's say, June, not June, July 25th, for example?
What about having whoever's on the work group for this review?
You mean establish a
revised
committee,
version.
essentially?
Mhm.
You could do
I
that.
just feel like eyes need to be on it. At least 2 or 3 more sets of eyes need to see it before it goes out.
The committee would like to delegate to a subcommittee that you establish, then we will make sure that the subcommittee then is convened with an agenda and with minutes, that we would treat it as a public process. Normally a subcommittee responds back to a full committee. I don't have much experience with committees establishing subcommittees, but Lisa, with sustainability, weren't there subcommittees created, and then in order for something to proceed, did they have to go back to the full committee first? Right. So,
Yes.
So in other words, we are talking about coming back to the full committee with the with a final draft, if you will.
Not if this committee agrees that this is, we just need a second review and that can be done. I mean,
With a subset. Okay.
yeah, I don't see anything in here that's, frightening that, would make me say, absolutely no, do not send this out. This is all wrong. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in here. It just needs to be tweaked and reformatted and shortened.
Well, the way the agenda item is written, I think there's certainly leeway to decide how you wish to have the survey produced and distributed. If you would like to give that guidance and then establish a subcommittee to do that, I don't see any concern with that off the top of my head. As long as we understand that that would be through a public process.
Kirsten, you had your hand up?
I did. I just agreed with, I wanted to agree with Lisa. I think 10 to
Okay.
12 questions would be ideal to clean it up. Because I think that if we're gonna do, Tad, you and I are gonna be working on this, if we're gonna do listening sessions, that's where we could do the mapping, because that's what Dane County did when they did the whole North Mendota. They had several listening sessions and then the big map, and people could put pins where they thought it might be trouble areas. And then the visual issues disappear. But I fill out all the forms or all the questionnaires like this for Dane County parks and for the city. And yeah, if it takes more than 10 minutes, people aren't going to do it.
Todd?
Yeah, it's gonna sound like a broken record, but just want to add on to what everybody else is saying. So kudos to Nikki who put this together. But in my other job, we do a lot of surveys as well, and really encourage to limit the number of questions as you possibly can. People don't take much time out of their day to fill these out, and especially if the questions are really long and there's a lot of different options and there's a lot of words. They like it really short and really quick. And so really refining it, shortening the questions, and then also, several of you mentioned grouping. I think grouping is really important. So that they can keep their focus on the appropriate topic that we're trying to get at. Because there's some different topics throughout here, but we should group them into, as Alder Hanairo was saying, that's a really good suggestion. And then succinctly identifying how we're going to use this data and this information is critical. And then just one thing too that hasn't been mentioned that we always think about is the repetitiveness of the survey. So as we're reviewing it and looking at it, don't just look at how we're going to use it for this one particular initiative, but also look at it, are we going to reissue this survey in 2 years to see if we have made any progress? So look at it from that lens as well when you're looking at these questions. Or these questions not just appropriate for a one-time assessment, but also as a follow-up? Are these questions what we want to use to evaluate the initiative that we're pursuing? So, thanks.
Very helpful feedback. Thank you. So are you then what formal action are you taking? Any formal action? I guess I'll ask the committee in terms of establishing a subcommittee, or how would you want to proceed? Or work group? Maybe it's good to ask who wants to see it again. Alder Hanairo mentioned that. Stephen, I think you mentioned it.
I believe I heard Lisa volunteer.
Yeah.
Was it agreed upon that we could have a smaller subcommittee? Is that?
Well, it sounds like a lot of you are interested in it, so we could just notice it as a formal, as another committee meeting, as long as 6 of you show up. It's up to you. I'll, we'll proceed as you wish. I just want to have some idea of what you want to do before we move to the next item. So who wants another set of eyes? Who wants to look at this again? I guess maybe that's the way to ask.
think-
that, if you don't
I think
know.
that is because I honestly have no strong opinion on
Okay.
the follow-up.
Okay.
Well, as I said earlier, I guess I am interested in seeing it again, and if there's a process, I'm willing to participate in it. If that's the way we go, if it's a smaller group, I cannot, if that's possible.
Yeah, if there's a smaller group, I'd be happy to help with that as well.
I think Kirsten said she was interested.
I am, but meeting in 2 weeks is not gonna work for me. So that would be the only problem. It would have to be at our regular time.
Maybe the committee could authorize a subgroup of us, Kirsten, myself, Stephen, and Todd, to discuss it through email, or, send you changes, Mark, and you can send us a revised version, and our review would be sufficient.
Um,
And I just want to say, as much as I appreciate the reason of, wanting to give Nikki the opportunity to close this out, to me, that's a nice to have. I don't know if anybody's as familiar with the Brady Bunch as I am, but there's an episode where Greg Brady gets a big break in the music industry because he fits the suit. He's going to be Johnny Bravo. They don't pick him because of his talent. They don't pick him because of his good looks and his nice perm. They pick him because they already bought the suit, and Greg fits in the suit. So I try to remember that example a lot, because there are times when, not just in Middleton, but everywhere, people do things because they've already bought the suit, and, Greg fits the suit. So I don't want to have, as good a reason as it might be, I don't want Nikki's tenure with the planning department to dictate what we do for this update to a plan that, how old is the plan, Mark?
Our PedBike plan currently is from 2009. And
Yeah,
we,
so it's been a long time,
Yeah.
Waiting to be updated, and I wouldn't want to rush it to fit an intern's schedule.
Understood. And I didn't mean to say it has to be
As
done by then, or that
understandable
Abby
as
wanted
that
that. I
reason.
think we just wanted to get on with it. And, I'm thinking festival season is here. Maybe there's an opportunity to get input through the Good Neighbor, at the Good Neighbor Festival. There's other opportunities. We just wanted to put this instrument together, and then, get input as we can this summer. So
So procedurally, Mark, just to clarify something, if we form a subcommittee, does that have to be publicly noticed, or can that
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. And the discussion about email, I think if you're providing information to me as staff to combine it all together, that's fine. If you're having a discussion amongst yourself via email, I see that as problematic.
Right.
But I think, if you want to send me your ideas, or we just have, we meet together in a conference room or via Zoom, it's probably, however you want to do it, and discuss our various ideas, that certainly is fine. If you just want to send me what you have and your comments, we can take another shot at restructuring. I think there's been some consistent feedback here and some really good feedback. So I think maybe what I'd like to do is work with Nikki early next week again, and have her take the comments and have her listen to this recording, and take another, put revision number 2 together and then run that by the work group. That's what I would recommend.
All right. So, so what I'm hearing is Mark would like you to send him your comments.
Yeah.
And then the subcommittee of Todd, Lisa, Stephen, and possibly Kirsten, depending on how you schedule, can schedule a time to go over the second draft.
Right. That's sounds the best approach to me.
All right.
So maybe a motion to that effect, since we're creating a
Yes.
subcommittee, I think that would be helpful.
All right. Well, I will make the motion to that effect.
Do you want to call it the active
I can-
transportation? Oh, I'm
Well,
sorry.
I was gonna say, I'll second it, but I want to find out if my colleagues who are signing up for this working group understand it to be for the whole active transportation plan or just for the survey.
That's exactly the
I'm in
question
it-
I was asking.
Yeah, just for the survey.
Yes, just for the survey.
Okay, then
Okay. So to establish a work group or what word do you want? Work group or subcommittee? I don't know if it really matters.
Subcommittees, traditional. Let's
Yeah, I would
just
think
stick
so.
with that.
Survey subcommittee, we'll call it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Consisting of those 4.
Yes.
Kalish, Hanairo, Pluckner, and Small.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I
Those opposed?
Aye.
Sorry,
that-
those opposed.
Sorry,
No,
not
Noah was an aye.
Okay.
that was the wrong time. Sorry.
Yeah. Motion carries. Before we go to the next item, I do want to note, technically, as a committee, we don't need seconds to our motions. However, if you want to just say here, definitely go for the second. So it's fine. Unless Mark, our bylaws state otherwise.
I actually am not understanding what your point is. You're saying a motion doesn't need a second? Is that what I just heard you say?
Technically, for Robert's rules for committees.
I wasn't aware of that.
but I would differ. We always use motions. Actually, for the nominations, you don't need a second. But for motions, we do.
Yeah, I would. I mean, our standing practice, I think, is, I mean, I only like
Right, so-
Lisa said, yeah.
So in question, it's section 5025. The informalities and modifications of the regular rules for use in small boards are applicable during the meetings of all standing and special committees, unless the committee is otherwise instructed by the society. And what I'm hearing is we're functionally otherwise instructed, so that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so disregard what I said because that's not our standing procedure. Okay. Committee work plan.
So this is something that you discussed at the meeting last month that I did not attend. I was out of town. Alder Hanairo kindly put together a adapted what I had put in the packet and applied it to some of the tasks that are before the committee here. So Lisa, I would happily turn this over to you if you'd like to, since you did this work, to lead the discussion if you'd like, if that's okay with Tad. Or did you want me to, was that just to help me?
That was just to help you.
Okay, well,
I don't want to take ownership of it. This is a
all right,
group
well,
project.
we should have coordinated that ahead of time. I apologize.
That's okay.
I wanted to make sure you know, I just want to say I appreciated that you put this into a format that is easily workable. So thank you. Sorry for that misunderstanding. So
That's okay. I'm pretty freewheeling on this Ped Bike and Transit Committee. Get it?
that was sort of a
Freewheeling.
pun. Yeah, I got it. So this is your opportunity to continue the discussion from the previous meeting.
Yeah, all right. So Noah and Stephen were not here. So what we are doing here is creating effectively a punch list of about 5 things that we would like to try and get done by the end of, well, it's turned into our entire work plan. Okay. The original intent was by the end of this calendar year. For the full year is also, for the full session is also fine. And we will put this punch list up on some part of the city website in order that the public can see what we're going for at an easily referenced, consistent location. So we discussed, let's see, so far we've discussed having the active transportation plan, planning for bike week well ahead of time, the week without driving, which is another thing, implementation guidance for complete streets. That's something that will also come up later. We have at least one more slot. If we're really thinking all the way to June of next year, we could probably do a 6th item if we're feeling crazy. Kirsten.
The things that I really was hoping to see in this upcoming year are taking care of the 2 problem areas on the path in front of Goodwill and Costco, the 2 very unsafe crossings. Educating the police force on what pedestrian and cyclist rights are, so that they know how to issue tickets, or when they know the laws, so that when a driver comes within 3 feet of a pedestrian or cyclist, they can, issue a ticket, things like that. And I would be very happy to do that. How we are going to hold the city accountable, or construction companies accountable for our complete streets policy when they are building, because that's a real big issue right now. Those were the 3 major things that I wanted to see done.
Mark, I think Kirsten's point about education had a lot to do with the police department. And I think that would be a very interesting metric to get from the police department. How many citations have they issued for to people driving cars for incidents related to pedestrians and cyclists?
And that was just also to really get it on their radar.
May I suggest a change in word to something like coordinating with the police department to make it a little easier for them to accept?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I had muted myself. Can you hear me? Oh, Kirsten, what I was saying is if you could please elaborate on the complete streets, the accountability issue that you mentioned.
Just having something written out or having a protocol so that when construction companies, let's say, close off a sidewalk in the middle of a section where there's no safe crossing for half a mile in each direction, you know, that is not following our complete streets policy whatsoever, and it happens often. You know, what is the protocol on holding them accountable for placing closures at proper intersections? And even the city, you know, if you have a huge stretch of sidewalk that's closed off or bike path that's closed off and there's no other safe route around for cyclists and pedestrians, that is not following complete streets. So just trying to figure out what our protocol is going to be as a city in upholding the complete streets policy.
So the construction closures of sidewalks is just one example of that. I recall this being a broader discussion that Tad brought up, and you at a previous meeting, maybe a couple of months ago. So you're talking about guidance in general for implementing complete streets, of which one example is to make sure that we have a protocol in place so that sidewalks aren't closed during, or that there's signage or you know, detour signage or whatever, or a suitable alternative route that's in close proximity in place.
And to make it narrower and smaller and much more attainable for this year, we could just narrow it down to that, because if we say complete streets, that's just this huge bubble, right? And where do you even go on writing a protocol for that? But construction is happening at such a rapid rate in Middleton, with apartments going up and streets being redone, that I think that this is something that has to be addressed. As somebody who walks as much as bikes, walking in Century Avenue or on Century Avenue in the street is not a fun thing to do, and I've had to do it many times. And I think that we need to, the city, I feel, is going against the complete streets policy as much as construction companies. So, you know, what I don't know if we can email or if people can write into the compliance manager for that. I think that we should find a way or a point person to be able to address that with.
Another good example being overgrowth of vegetation over sidewalks. Yeah. Noah has had his hand up for a little bit, Tad.
Yeah, so noticing that I'm kind of new here, I'm very excited to get started. And if you guys have any questions for like anything about like the youth, or we could do anything regarding like the high school or anything, I'm obviously very willing to help, because I have a lot of knowledge and I can ask a lot of my peers and other people about what they believe and what they think is good and optimal for anywhere near the high school or anywhere near the schools. So yeah.
Thank you. I'll take you up on that.
I was gonna say, make Noah do a survey is a pretty simple line item to add there.
Yeah, I mean, we could definitely get in contact with the high school, and I know that high school has like surveys that they send out monthly to high schoolers. So this could be possibly one of those things where we can send out to the students that they have to do an advisory, just be like a 2-minute process that they're all required to do.
How would you like me to document that, Ted? And where, I mean.
Honestly, I think that's a new line.
Okay. Kind of what I was thinking too.
The exact thing we do can be determined, but
High school outreach, is that what we were?
I think that's, yeah. All right, Lisa. So you're muted.
You did.
Of course I am. I wonder if the second bullet under implementation guidance for complete streets policy can be coordinate with Public Works Committee, because we do have a lot of developments. You know, my district has 2 developments going in, and it's possible in the next 2 years there will be a third one starting up. And actually there's the apartment building going up on Century, but at the sidewalk, I don't think the sidewalk is still closed. Anyhow, I think if we want to see the complete streets policy implemented, it almost starts with the Public Works Committee. I'll note that they changed a plan to have a raised crosswalk at on the Lake Street reconstruction after we had recommended it and the Public Works Committee had originally approved it, and then they took it out. So, you know, we're not doing all we can to implement this policy.
Just
Tom,
can't hear you, Tom.
you're muted.
I asked
Unmute.
you.
Can you hear
Yep.
me now?
Yes.
I think I mentioned this before, but when I noticed the kids, on the curb, when the construction was going on with the sidewalk in front of the Goodwill, and I called the city to raise my concerns, and they said that the city had a safety guy that I should report to, or anybody familiar with that? I think the person was Tom Weber, who used to be on the fire department. But
Well, he often manages many of our sidewalk improvement projects. So yes, Tom would be a point person, but we also have other engineering staff that oversee street reconstruction or resurfacing projects. So there's definitely I'd say we have 3 engineering techs that all work on this. So it depends on the project.
okay. Understanding that and who to raise one's concerns
Right.
to, I think would be helpful.
Yeah.
But I think everything that's being said here is really important.
And the templates that we have, as I understand it, and I don't know where to find one at the moment, but whenever we hire a company to do these projects, we have a checklist of all the things they need to do that's in our contract with them. And I think that's where it's important to make sure that we have a clear expression of what the city's standard is for maintaining access through a construction site for pedestrians, safe access for pedestrians and bicyclists. So I can follow up with Sean to see how that is phrased. If one of you would like to, it sounds like Tom, you're interested in that in particular, so I could run that by you again too, just to if you're volunteering.
Sure.
Okay.
Noah.
I mean, this all sounds great, and I have to take off soon, unfortunately, but I was wondering if you guys could kind of give me some insight into what Zoe did last year so I can kind of gain like an understanding of what I should be expecting to do.
I'd be happy to talk with you about that.
Okay.
We can talk about that offline.
Okay, sounds good.
I know you have to leave in a few minutes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Bike week, we don't have to worry about for a while. Active transportation plan, we've obviously established a subcommittee. Oops. Okay. Do you wish to have? This is our work plan. Is there a certain sequence to this that you were envisioning, Alder Haniro? Or any of you, I guess. These obviously these aren't done one by one. We work on multiple ones. You know, we have many irons in the fire, so to speak. So I just was wondering if there was a certain priority for some of these that you had.
I don't
I
have a
d-
priority.
Yeah, I didn't.
Sorry.
I just noted the things that had come up in the discussion at our last meeting, so threw those in there.
Yep, I appreciate that.
Here's
Yeah, I think that coordinating with the police department before school starts would be good. Just because a lot of kids are gonna be out biking and walking to school, hopefully. So that might be nice to do before Labor Day, or at least in September.
I like for Labor Day, because of the school connection, as you mentioned. Their school resource officers could be, yeah, I like that as a goal. Okay. Is it your intent then? Would you like this as a regular update item then? The progress report at every meeting, I assume?
I think that makes sense to at least
Happy to do that.
yeah. And then where on the website should we put this? We had discussed both a separate page and also simply on the committee page.
I'll figure that out. We don't need to get into that
Okay.
level of detail, I think, here. The committee page is a good idea, and I think we can do that, I think, if the structure allows it.
I think that's a good place for it too, because when people are
Yeah.
interested in the Ped Bike and Transit Committee, they'll look on that page, and it'd be nice to have a link that says, here's what we're working on in
Right,
this.
exactly. I just don't remember the structure of the of it well enough at the moment to see how this is set up. Yeah, we could put that there, overview, and have our work plan. Yeah, that works. Okay, thank
When
you.
you're editing the page, Mark, can I make a suggestion? Instead of calling Stephen our aging designee, can you call him the Aging Commission designee?
Oh, wow. I'll have Lori change that. I didn't even know that she had done that, so, okay. I agree. Sorry about that, Stephen. Good thing the rest of us aren't aging.
No offense taken.
Well, and I'm not a
Right.
member either, so that's a strange. Okay. All right, thank you. That's good feedback.
Anybody else? All right. Moving on to note about the development of the Complete Streets Guide, one of our work items. So let's just get to it. So this is at least partly on me. I've already volunteered. I am basically looking for, I guess, as many as 2 or 3 other people. Well, actually, let's do background first. Okay, so we passed our Complete Streets resolution. However, so far, the actual implementation of the kinds of things discussed in the resolution has basically fallen to any time the Public Works Committee remembers to recommend things to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a great example, and not to pick on them, they're just an example, is Red Tail Ridge. So for the first phase, they were referred to us and we asked them to put continuous intersections. I mean, continuous crossings at the intersections. They did. For phase two, nobody remembered to do that. So slightly further down the street where if we had had a guide ready to explain the purpose of continuous crossings, there would be furthermore, there are none planned. So that's just an example of the inconsistency resulting because we're having to do this on a case-by-case basis. So the idea of the guide would be, it'd be like the list of things that they have to do that Mark referred to earlier. It would just explain what we expect them to do at each stage and why, in order to actually achieve complete streets. Yeah, so I have already started taking notes for myself on certain existing complete streets guides. I'm looking for basically fellow subcommittee volunteers. We'd start with note taking, build up, and we would probably need, as Mark pointed out procedurally, we'd need to establish several additional subcommittee meetings to go over this. And I believe for the times where we wouldn't do that, we would relay our notes through Mark.
Yep.
And then longer term, we will need to work with Public Works on turning this into the full guide, since they do the more immediate review stuff than we do. There are some related documents that the city has about, for example, typical street cross sections explaining the widths of lanes and that kind of thing that we'll probably need to interact with and maybe revise, depending on what we can do. So do I have any volunteers?
I wonder if our Public Works designee on this committee, Carrie, if she'd be willing to help. It seems like she'd be a logical pick.
It does.
What kind of commitment is this involved?
That is the question. So at the moment, this is essentially reviewing. This is similar to the active transportation plan in that we're reviewing. There are other municipalities throughout and larger than municipality jurisdictions. There are various complete streets guides that we can read and refer to in developing our own. So reading, note taking, and putting together our own guide, drafting, revising those drafts. Then again, working with Public Works for the long-term adoption. Kirsten.
Yeah, we've got two huge labor intensive things going on, the ATP and this.
Yeah.
I almost see this as being more important because it's more active. I know the ATP stuff would be lovely to have written out, but we haven't had one could we put that off till next year, the writing of the ATP, and work on this year? If so, I could help out a little bit, but boy, having both big projects going for the committee at once, that's asking a lot.
If I may respond to that,
Yeah,
my concern with that is in the budget process last year, as we prepared for 2024, we meaning the planning department, communicated to the council that the ATP was a priority to undertake this year. So I would feel uncomfortable if the committee said we are shifting that priority to a future year without getting the council's concurrence. At least as that, Todd, is that a fair response?
I think so, Mark. And also, I mean, one of the nice things about having different work groups, because if you look at what the sustainability committee had on its work plan, which is the template we're working off of, there were a lot of really involved things on that list. But with 10 members on sustainability, we were able to break into smaller groups, and each one would move things along in the interim between meetings. And so for some folks, like there was I think this is the one that had celebration on there. There was a whole bunch of work that had to go into preparing this event. And it took a lot of time, but it was mainly all confined within like a 2 or 3 month period. So I think as long as Tad's willing to, Tad's signed up for this guidance, which is important. Tad's also on the active transportation plan. As long as Tad's got time to be involved on both, we should be fine. And if Tad isn't, we need to recruit other people who can. And then the other thing to consider about the implementation guidance, because I'm on plan commission, so I'm thinking about like, how can we make sure that when development plans are prepared and reviewed, that someone's going over them with an eye to the complete streets policy. And at the risk of burdening Mark some more, I wonder if Mark would be the person on city staff to be able to do that, especially if we free up some of his time.
Well, yeah.
Tearing down the minutes.
As you raised this discussion, I thought of this a few weeks ago myself, that we missed an opportunity with the continuous sidewalks through phase 2. And I blame myself for not thinking of that sooner. As we reviewed that plat, I think some of it's just, a lot of different projects, and it should have been something in my mind and it wasn't. So I apologize for that. I think what we're discussing is having built-in procedures so that this just becomes second nature to think of these things. And, we shouldn't have to do a retrofit for a new subdivision. So.
Well, maybe we need to have a joint meeting soon with Public Works.
Yeah. And I know, Tad, that you and Charles Myers, that's chair of Public Works Committee, have been talking about that as well, right?
a little bit, yes.
Yeah.
Well, for the moment, what I'm hearing is, since we need to ask Carrie anyway, and she is not here, I'm happy to continue my initial note taking, etc., for the next month, and then we can follow up. I can follow up with everybody next month on where we go from there, if that's acceptable.
For me.
All right. Item 5, week without driving.
Okay, this one, I think this one's me, right?
Yep, go ahead.
So I was approached by an alder in Fitchburg that I've met at some other meetings about participating within Dane County's Week Without Driving. And as he explained to me, it's a national thing, started in Washington State. But now it's a national challenge, and it was actually does it even say it was the disability? Yeah, the Disability Mobility Initiative is the one who began it. Because of course we all know there are many reasons not to, or to want people to not drive as much, climate change being a big one. But from the vantage point of people who do not drive for whatever reason, it's important for everybody else to understand what it's like to try to get around. Kirsten has brought up many different situations where she's discovered, a hazardous condition because she's actually there walking or biking. All of us have had this experience somewhere and on transit as well. So the Week Without Driving has grown, and Dane County has a few municipalities that are already planning to participate. And I put together a resolution that with the committee's endorsement, I would like to share with council for Tuesday's meeting. The week itself isn't until the end of September, but I think it's important for something like this to be meaningful. I think it's important to get it out there early, and then I can advocate every meeting we have for members of council and the mayor to participate in actually doing the challenge, at least, to some extent. So I put together this resolution. I'm sorry I didn't have it to share in the packet. I literally learned about this like 2 days ago. And so I drafted this resolution today, and it just explains the cost of car ownership, how many people in Middleton are non-drivers, and that includes older adults and students, how reliance on cars has put us in a situation where we invest a lot, as you all know, in streets and not so much in facilities for pedestrians, bikes, and also public transit. We have a complete streets policy, and this is pretty much a quote from it. And then our comprehensive plan has these two actions in it related to creating conditions to help transit become the preferred mode, and then also making sure that the entire road right of way is balanced. That's part of that comes from Complete Streets. It explains what the Week Without Driving is. It explains how it's a good way for everyone to see firsthand how well our current transportation system is meeting our neighbors' needs. And then Mayor Kuhn would declare it, and we'd encourage everybody, all the elected officials, committee members, not just this committee, but like literally everybody, to try something, even if it's just one trip that they normally would take with a car, take it without a car during that week. And so beyond the resolution, there are other things that Fitchburg and other municipalities may coordinate on, such as there might be an online place where you can sign up to do the challenge. They're talking about asking B-Cycle to have free rides, give anybody who wants one a free ride just once during that week. Same thing for Madison Metro, get bus passes. Maybe we could give them away to people who sign up in Middleton. If you fill out a Google form that you're going to do this, maybe we can make free passes available to people. So a lot of stuff still needs to be worked out, but the first step is approving a resolution and getting that to council. And I would appreciate edits from the members and eventually a motion to approve. Thanks.
I love this, and we could get Noah. This could be maybe his first project to get the Stoke with the students and get the students involved and on board. Um, bus, bike, or walk. I think I love it. Thanks, Lisa.
Great. Thanks. Yeah, I think the schools especially that's a great place to encourage people to just try walking once. Cause I know from dropping off my child at Cromrie and then at the high school, everybody, very few people take the bus. And maybe this is a way to get families to walk to school together or bike to school or get the teenagers to walk or bike. There could be a particular day of that week when everybody's encouraged to do it. Maybe there's prizes available. There's a lot we could do with this.
It's another good opportunity for a bike bus too.
Yep. I don't know. Did anybody here use Round Trip or has anybody used Round Trip? They do their spring challenge, or it's a spring challenge and then Wondering Bike Week, where you can actually log on and win prizes or be entered into a raffle. And Round Trip also gives out 2 free bus passes for everybody that enters the challenge. So I'm wondering if it's Madison, so I don't know if we're allowed to use them.
Oh,
But
yeah, we are.
Yeah, okay, because I use Round Trip for my emergency ride home. But that's also because I work with the university. If we could use them for that challenge, that would be great. Because they already have it set up, the challenge stuff set up.
I know the people who run this program. It's through the Mass and Area Transportation Planning Board. And Zia Brukaya comes to mind.
Yep.
You know Zia?
Yep.
Oh yeah, she's awesome. So, and they have a pop-up. Yep. So I'll reach out to them too and ask that question, unless you are offering to, Kirsten. Oh,
No, if you could, that would be great.
that's fine. Well, I want to thank Lisa from a staff standpoint. Oftentimes staff are the ones that draft resolutions at council request. And I appreciate that we have a council member who went ahead and just drafted the resolution. So thank you for doing that.
I used to do that in my career too. So yeah, you're welcome. And thank you everyone for support. I guess I will make a motion, unless there are any corrections or changes. I would make a motion I would move that we approve this resolution and ask council to approve it.
I second. This is Kirsten.
I just want to see how we put this on the agenda. Just a second. I think that's fine, but oh yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah. Kirsten, you seconded. I fixed a typo. I think you had said commitment here, but I think you meant committed, right? In adopting
Yes.
a policy.
Yep. Thank
Okay.
you for fixing that.
I love that I found a typo in something you did.
Thanks, Mark. Makes me feel really good.
All right, we've
I'm
got a
kidding.
motion and a second. All those in favor?
Hi.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Obviously, I was joking, Lisa. I appreciate
I
it.
know, and it's fine, Mark. And Mark, will you make sure that this goes to Brian for getting on the council agenda?
Yeah, I will. I think it's too late to put it on next week's agenda. Our deadline was this morning, so I can.
That's fine.
I think we're fine in waiting till what will that be? Yeah, the first August 6th. It will be then.
That's fine. Thanks.
Happy to do that.
All right, staff
Um,
updates.
Yeah, I don't have too much to say about this. In fact, I was interested in hearing if Kirsten had anything to say, because you had also brought this to my attention. I think Alder Hanairo did as well. my understanding is that this isn't as broad a decision as unfortunately would be nice to have to allow bike lanes and shared use paths that same discretion. My understanding is that this was limited to sidewalks. So the backstory here, for those of you who don't know, is that several years ago, the legislature took away the rights of municipalities to condemn or to acquire land through eminent domain for the purpose of putting in pedestrian and bicycle facilities. And it's been a hardship for bike-friendly and pedestrian-friendly communities to put in, to get the approval from adjoining property owners to put in a wider street right-of-way to put in a bike path or sidewalk like along Parmenter Street north of Middleton. We've had that challenge. So this case, it sounds to me, has restored that ability for sidewalks. Is there anybody else who understands that differently? So that's the update I have. So making some progress.
Yeah, they'll challenge it. Egg Harbor will challenge this. It went to the Supreme Court because what it was that the Supreme Court found that the terminology, it wasn't bike ways or pedestrian ways, it was sidewalk. So they voted specifically on the terminology, and they found that sidewalk was not bike way or pedestrian way. So I have a feeling.
Egg Harbor's you're saying Egg Harbor's going to challenge it to make it a broader. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and right. So I shouldn't say that. Okay, so Egg Harbor, the township or city, I think, or municipality of Egg Harbor, voted to have, and the Supreme Court held it up to have the sidewalk put in. The property owner that has been fighting it is still going to continue to fight, because it's all the vote was all based on terminology, and so it was a loophole. But it is still a minor win. This will not help us with bike paths,
right,
at all for right now. It will only help us with sidewalks. But it's a start. And if a small municipality like Egg Harbor can bring this to the Supreme Court, I have a feeling that others will follow suit, and it gives us a little bit of a standing.
So just to clarify, if this was a Supreme Court ruling, there isn't really a challenge from the state Supreme Court, but there's other cases that could advance the ball, is I think what you're saying.
Correct. And
okay.
Each one of them is going to have to go through, and every time the Supreme Court is going to have to decide about the terminology stuff. Yeah.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
The only other update I have, and I didn't list it here, but is we had a news release today about the opening of the bridge over Pleasant View Road. I just wanted to make you aware of that. The bridge where the bike path, the shared use path, goes up the hill, South Fork Trail. That's all I have.
All right.
Yeah.
Future events. Well, if there's nothing tonight, we are at the end of our agenda, so we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
you.
Bye.